Well, now we turn to our Android Basics section and we continue our tour of the Settings app. And we've reached the SOS section. So cue ABBA puns, singing along if you like, that sort of thing. I was going to share a screen and play a little bit of SOS, but wasn't sure if that might get us taken down for copyright infringement, so I won't do it. So to introduce this section, here is a tour of those medical SOS emergency services type settings, brought to you by Warren.
So here I am in the system settings, and now I will navigate to the item that we're talking about today, and that will be
Safety and Emergency, Emergency SOS, Medical Info, Alerts.
I will tap here to begin.
Safety and Emergency. Navigate up, button, out of list.
I am now in this area, and as you can tell from the title, this has to be some very private area. This is where you could put your medical information, emergency contacts, and things like that. So, in a sense, this is a very personal area indeed. Let us, however, go through the items that are here, and we may take a look at one or two of these items. Starting from the top, these are the items that we find in this area.
Open Personal Safety, button, in list.
We have an item that says Open Personal Safety. Below that we have
Medical Information, Name, Blood Type and more.
Medical information, blood type, and more. In other words, should something happen to you and you have all that info in here and you happen to not be able to speak, they can look at that info. And if you need like blood transfusion or whatever the case may be, knowing your blood type will know what type of transfusion you should get from what blood type that transfusion should be coming from. So you can see why this is important. Next.
Emergency Contacts, no information.
Emergency contacts, that is who to contact should something happen to you and you are unable to speak. Next.
Emergency SOS, managed by Personal Safety.
The SOS is managed by that personal safety, whatever it is that you put in that personal safety. As we saw above, that is powered by that emergency or personal safety rather that we saw up there at the top. And so this will have to do with things like how many times should you press the power key before the emergency is automatically called. Let's move to the next item.
Car Crash Detection, signed into Personal Safety.
Car crash detection, and this is something that is specific to Pixel phones, and I know that Google is planning to bring that to Android phones in general, but this is an item that is specific to the Pixel phone, and I think, as a matter of fact, it should be available to every phone, and that's what Google is planning on working on. Next.
Crisis Alerts, signed into Personal Safety.
Crisis Alert. You can sign into that personal safety and manage that from there as well. So in other words, basically, it seems like when you tap on that personal safety, it will also have all of these items as well. Let's keep going.
Emergency Location Service, on.
Emergency Location Service is on. Of course, if you want people to be able to locate you when you are in an emergency situation, you will need to have this one turned on. Next.
Earthquake Alerts, on.
Earthquake alert. You live in places like California and even Washington, you may want to have this one on. Next.
Wireless Emergency Alerts.
Wireless emergency alerts. So things like Amber Alert, some government announcements, and all of that, weather, severe weather, all of that will fall into this category. And that would be the last of the items in this general overview. Let's go ahead, however, and take a look at these and see which ones are of great importance, even though these are equally important, yet in the same breath, one could deduce as to which ones he or she would rather make available and which ones not to bother with. Let's start at the very top one, which says Personal Safety button.
Open Personal Safety button.
Open Personal Safety button. I will tap here.
Welcome to Personal Safety. Quickly connect to the right help with emergency sharing, safety check, and more out of list.
And that's the information we get. And going down toward the middle,
Select account, Warren Carr, drop-down list.
we're told to select an account, and we have a drop down with the name in there. And if that's not the account I want to use, I could tap here to go choose another account or add another account. Or below that, we have the
Continue as Warren Carr button.
Continue. And I tap here, for example.
Personal Safety. Progress bar, in progress. Detected, text, C. Personal Safety. Add emergency contacts, heading. Add emergency contacts.
We are on this page where we're told to add an emergency contact. And if I move my finger down,
warcare@gmail.com.
keep moving my finger down, or you could swipe from left to right.
Add contact, in list.
We have add contact, and in list we have,
These contacts will be used across personal safety features, out of list.
as you can see, I don't have any contacts in here yet.
To help in an emergency, people can view and call these contacts without unlocking your device.
So what that means is that if you find yourself in an emergency situation, people should be able to call your contact that is listed here without even the need of unlocking your phone.
Skip button.
And at the bottom left, we got skip, or to the right of that,
Next button, disabled.
we have next disabled because I haven't tapped on where it says to add the contact. Now let's go back to the previous screen.
Welcome to Personal Safety. Quickly connect to the right help with emergency sharing.
I'm going to go back here again.
Safety and emergency. Open Personal Safety button, in list.
And we had seen some other items like
Medical information, name, blood type, and more.
medical information, blood type, and more. Let's tap here, for example.
Welcome to Personal Safety. Select account, Warren Carr, drop-down list, out of list.
And here we're told to select an account. Again, it's seeing my account. And so the whole idea is the same idea. Toward the bottom of the phone, we have that continue with,
Continue as Warren Carr button.
or continue as whatever your name is. We tap here.
Personal Safety. Detected, text, C, progress bar, in progress. Add emergency contacts. warcare@gmail.com.
And the same idea we saw earlier.
Add contact, in list.
And add contact.
These contacts will be used across personal safety features, out of list. To help in an emergency, people can view and call these contacts without unlocking your device. Skip button. Next button, disabled.
So as you can see, all these are tied to what I do with that first item. So without doing that, I will have to first create that contact emergency person and all of that. And then all of these will simply tie into it. And that's what this is. And we can look at more, but as I indicated, this is an area that people need to go in and fill out those areas and put in the necessary information that is needed in the case of an emergency that help can be called upon. So that's what these areas are. And now we'll discuss these items and see what the crew comes up with.
Well, there we are. Thank you very much for that, Warren. Is there anything you want to say over and above that to kick off the session?
So, Warren, what is this earthquake alert that you spoke about?
So the earthquake alert is basically, so if one lives in an area that's earthquake prone, say you're in California, even here in Washington, so basically the Pacific Coast in general, whether you are in Oregon, California, or in Washington here, even maybe like Vancouver, so we're all along the coast here on the Pacific Coast, and we do have some parts of the country that are also, earthquake prone. So the whole idea is that you would be alerted when, it's being felt or when it's being noticed, whatever the thing is. I've never seen it in action, so I can't speak to it with any effectiveness, but it's there. by default is turned on, and I think that's a good thing. So it's important to have this on, but if you don't want to, you could turn it off because it's a toggle that can be turned on or off.
Yeah, I should also say, Warren, that there's because I looked at it today, and there's something in there called test, which you can test, like you can see it working, and it's going to show you like how things are going to go in case this happens. So if you want to see it in action and try it out, you can do this test right there too.
Exactly. And like I said in the overview of this area, I wasn't going to go into all of these things because if I did, the whole thing is going to be so long. But people need to go in here and look at each of these things because they're important. They're all about your safety, and that's why it's called a safety. And then you have the SOS and all the crisis alerts and all the Amber alerts and all the different alerts that you can think of. So for those of us who are blind, sometimes these things could be a life-saving thing. And it's not just those of us who are blind, but for everyone else, because if you want some emergency service to reach you, you'll have to enable those things. Or if you find yourself in a situation where you're not able to talk, then they should be able to, using your phone, call your loved ones or whatever the case may be. And I think my favorite in here will be also the crash detection, car crash detection, because if you don't do anything like in 10 seconds, it will automatically call emergencies for you. So the emergency is right there at your fingertips. So whether you're driving or not, I think it makes sense to have it because the person you're driving with may not have that on their phone. And if someone is giving you a ride as a blind person, I think I always should have mine on so that should something happen and the other person doesn't have it, then yours would alert the emergency people to come and give you guys a hand or something of the sort. The only problem that I have with it is the fact that this thing is only a Pixel exclusive feature, but Google was talking about bringing it to some other Android devices during Google I/O, and I'm hoping that by now, you know how it is that Google takes its time in rolling out these things, but I'm optimistic this thing is going to be coming to, Android phones, so it's not just going to be a Pixel exclusive like some of the things that used to be Pixel exclusives, and now we have those on other phones as well. So I think that's one of my favorites.
Warren, can you explain blind people to enable car crash detection? Because let's face it, none of us are driving without crashing cars, are we? So it definitely needs to be turned on. Sorry, Fee.
Warren, can you explain to people who might not get that sort of thing in their countries, like for example here in the UK, what Amber alerts are, mainly so we know we don't have to worry about them, but also because people where you are might not have used them before either.
So the Amber Alert, I know it's an acronym, and people think it was there was actually a girl named Amber that was kidnapped or abducted or whatever, but I know it's an acronym of some sort. When someone abducts a kid, because you have crazy people out there, maybe someone having like a custody battle with their spouse or ex-spouse or whatever, and we see that happening and again. I think we had one happen in my area here, maybe like maybe like 3 weeks ago. And so that went out and they found the person and the child. So it is a very good thing because when a kid is stolen, I call it stolen because when you take someone by force, they're stealing that person. And so instead of putting pictures on milk boxes or whatever like they used to do in the past, hey, we're looking for so-and-so. The last time that they were seen, or the last time that the kid was seen was wearing this kind of clothing and all of that. But an Amber Alert would tell you what kind of car it was that was sin at the sin, carrying the child or abducting the child and things like that. Now, those of us who are blind, we may not be able to be of much help there, but the general public will know what to look for, the license, if the license was captured, but most importantly, the type of vehicle, whether it's a Ford, a Toyota, or whatever. And sometimes they'll tell you what the model is, like whether it's from 2022, 2015, or whatever, things like that. So those are type of things that goes in the Amber Alert.
It stands for Amber's. It stands for America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response, and was indeed also named after someone called Amber, who sadly, suffered the fate that Warren described. Sorry, Fee.
So you also have weather alerts, don't you? That we don't have here.
Yeah, so we have under that cellular alerts or wireless broadcast or wireless alert, in there you have all kinds of stuff. You have weather, you have maybe there's a pandemic or something going on. Government can make announcements on there. And so it has different alerts in there as well.
Yeah, especially for something severe, like if there's a tornado in your area or something like that, you'll get alerts for that type of thing.
The other thing to mention about this section as well is that if you do have medical conditions that may incapacitate you and subsequently require revival, so diabetes, if you're likely to enter anaphylactic shock, those sorts of things, then you might well want to set this in your phone so that people can access your medical information and administer the right treatment slightly more speedily than they would otherwise be able to do. So here is where you would go to do that.
I like the fact that you mentioned that, Ed, and most especially if one puts in their blood type in there, because let's say you are in an accident and you need some blood transfusion or whatever the case may be, and they need to know that. So if there's any emergency blood available, you don't want to be given the wrong blood type. So I think it makes sense that they have these things in there. These things were well thought of in their implementation, and I think the guys that came up with this idea were absolutely brilliant people for making that available. Because if I'm going to be getting any blood transfusion, I want to make sure that I get the right one. But the people who do these things or give these medical aids would like to know so that they can give you immediate help. So, like I said in the preamble of this, it's a very personal area, yet in the same breath, it's a lifesaver thing, because making these things available, you're not helping yourself, but also helping the people who are going to be giving you that aid to know what to do. So it's important that we go through this and put in the things that we need to put in. And I think another one that I like is that contact. You need to have someone like a family member in the event that something happens and you want someone to be contacted. Of course, something happens, the first thing they want to do, besides taking one to the hospital, is to contact one of your loved ones. And so if you put your loved one's contact in here, those numbers can be dialed without unlocking your phone. So it's not going to be giving the emergency people any access to your phone, but simply by just turning on the power, and they can just make a call your emergency person right there without getting into your phone. So I think that's important.
You know how that's done? Is it that they just sit the numbers always on the lock screen, or how do they bring that up?
Basically what'll happen is if you have a password, PIN, fingerprint, whatever that may be on your phone, once they go open your phone, they'll be able to swipe up to access the PIN. There's a button in that section that'll allow them to access your emergency medical information, as well as in that area be able to have your phone call your emergency contacts. So anyone who's a actual first responder, whether it's EMS, police, fire, They all have been trained to look for that specifically. If your phone has been set up and you don't have any password protection to it, they will actually go into your contacts list and look at your ICE, which is your emergency contact people, and they will immediately go in there, call that person, or they'll go into your settings and specifically look for your safety and emergency settings to obtain your medical info. So it'll all depend how they access your info, whether your phone is locked or not. But all emergency services have been trained to look for the emergency medical info button. Unless you're in a trauma situation, then they will completely disregard anything on your phone.
And this is why, if you've enabled these things, then there would be no need of them going into your system settings and all of that, because all of that info would be right there on that lock screen, which, like I said, would not even have anything to do with accessing your phone. It's there on that security screen, and this becomes available to them, and it's made in such a way that it should be able to make those calls and also give them that medical info. I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically,
There's a button that says emergency, isn't there?
yes,
Yes.
I will actually
Yes.
come up here and tell you what it'll show on a Samsung device. You'll
Good.
have a button that'll pop up.
Delete. Emergency call button.
Okay, I'm just looking for it here.
Password 1.
Oh, I don't have it set up on my phone. So basically, you're supposed to have a button that'll say like emergency call or medical information, and then that'll give them the access. But that's one of the benefits of locking your phone is in an emergency, you don't have to worry about your first responders going through your device, whether intentionally or accidentally. They'll have all the information right on your lock screen.
What
Yeah.
I'm wondering is are there places, for example, to type in what medication you're on and things?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
if there are, I just wonder, where's that stored? Is it just on your phone, or does it? I mean,
All
obviously,
of that.
All that
So
is on
if
your
you do a
phone.
backup,
On your
Yes.
phone.
I mean, if
It's
you do
local.
a backup, it goes to the cloud, of course. But
No, it
like,
doesn't.
No, Fee, no.
Oh,
This
doesn't it?
does not. No.
No.
This is strictly
So-
on your phone.
All of that information is stored in the same way your passwords are stored. So on a Samsung, your medical information is actually stored on the same chip that controls your fingerprint sensor. So no one else
so
has
it's
access.
just on the phone. So if I get a new Samsung phone,
You will have to
do I
go
have
and
to
enter all
enter
that
that again?
all over again.
Yeah, but that's better. That's more secure. That's good. Actually.
Exactly.
Yeah. That applies more widely, by the way. So if you have security settings, for instance, which let you, let's say you've enabled the device admin app to let you wipe your phone, for instance, that won't carry across either. You've got to go and do all of that again. I'm not so sure how sensible it is that doesn't all carry across, to be honest. I get the sensitivity of some of it. I think they should find a way to enable users to have that ported across, because you might remember to set it up. I don't know, how many phones do you think you own, Warren?
You know what?
Roughly?
I'm going to take that as a challenge. I'm going to set it up on my Pixel 6.
No, but
So,
no. I want to make a point though. How many phones do you own?
well, I
Roughly.
have several, but I don't.
I know, a ballpark.
He doesn't even know.
Ah.
Yeah.
But
It's
but how
like,
many phones would he have on him in an
Well, no, but
emergency?
this
That's
is
the
the point.
question.
So- but he might carry different
Okay,
phones for
so
different
I
reasons.
probably, I'll say maybe 15.
So
I don't want-
let's say Warren has 15 phones. He sets this up on 14 out of the 15 phones, and for some reason,
He
who
carries the
knows
15.
why, he's carrying the 15th phone that doesn't have it set up the day he needs
Oh.
it. So
Exactly.
I don't
And
know
then he
why
falls
the
over
information
and
doesn't
somebody
port, I
can't.
don't know why the information
Yeah.
doesn't port across. There's no
Yeah,
reason
so
to me
you know-
for that
you know what
information
I'm
to be
gonna
device
do?
specific when there are other security methods to secure that information.
Yeah, it's a
I
bit weird.
agree. Yeah.
You know what I'm gonna
Alice
do,
needs
Ed?
to-
I'm gonna set it up, and then when I get my 7 Pro, I'm gonna see if it brings it from the other phone, just for
We
giggles.
know it doesn't. Doug told us it doesn't. It
Yeah,
doesn't come
it
across.
doesn't. Yeah, so
No,
because I've never
so-
done it, so I can't say whether it does, but I don't think it does. I don't think
I
it
want you
does.
to set it up on all 15 of your phones.
What was
I
that?
have a question for you guys. I was gonna say, am I the only one who has accidentally used this emergency SOS where you
Nope,
call
I've done it.
emergency services?
I didn't do it in this operating system, but I did it in a previous life, in a pub, and I was trying to
How?
turn off voiceover because it had gone odd, and re-enable it. But for some reason, it didn't register one of my clicks, so it did it 5 times, and it was noisy, and I hadn't realised it was going. We're going to call emergency services in 30 seconds if you don't do something about this. And then this alarm went off really loud on my phone, which meant I couldn't hear voiceover to stop the call. And it went through.
God.
Yeah, in my case, it was like I had just gotten a new phone, like I do, and it was a OnePlus where they have the volume on the opposite side, and I wasn't used to it yet. So I had started playing something that was too loud, and I was trying to turn it down real quick. So I was pressing the power button over and over, and I'm like, the volume's not going down. What's going on here? And then the next thing I know, emergency services, and I'm like, sorry, I called you by accident, and because at first I was about to hang up, and then I thought, don't hang up, they'll like send somebody out. So I was like, oh yeah, sorry, that was an accident, and she was like, are you sure? Are you sure it was an accident? I was like, yes. She was like acting like I needed to like cough twice if somebody's there, So I was like, no.
But what that
Trust
also
me.
does, by the way, is it will notify your emergency contact that you've done it, as I discovered.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
dear.
someone's a complete idiot. Look what they've gone and done. It texts them, and then they go, "Are you okay?" So they get notified if you press that button and you've stored an emergency contact. I don't want to create a perverse incentive for people not to create emergency contacts, by the way, but that happens.
Call them, but how would I call them by accident so that I can like avoid doing?
It's not the emergency contact you call by accident; it's the emergency services.
Yeah,
So
but how would I
it's
do that? I don't want to do that. So how can I
It's the
not?
repeat press of the power
If
button,
you
same as it is
tap
on
the
iOS,
power,
I think.
I think on Pixel phones, if you tap it 5 times, it'll
Yeah, it's
activate the
5.
emergency. I think on Samsung phones, I think maybe even
It's either
3.
3 or 4. You
Yeah,
have to set it to either 3 or 4. I think it's
yeah,
3 by default, but you could change it to 4.
But can you
You
yeah.
can
cancel
even
it
turn that
beforehand?
off.
Will it
Yeah, you
warn
can
you
if
it's
you're
gonna do it?
alert.
And
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in fact it's off by default, I think, on Samsung phones. You have to actually go and turn this stuff on.
oh,
Oh,
good,
that's
because I don't want to be that. Knowing me, that would happen all the time. I did it on a watch once, a watch that Warren wouldn't like because it wasn't an Android one.
It's okay.
Must have been a Fitbit.
I
had to say I'm very sorry that was because again I knew you don't hang up because they might phone you back and say did you call 999 sort of because in the UK
I never
it's
knew Braille
999.
watches could do that.
No, it wasn't a Braille watch.
Anyway, so the other part that I like in here is the crisis alert. And what that is like we were saying earlier before we started talking or recording, is that if there's some bad thing happening in your neighborhood, it will let you know so you can stay indoors so you're not in the way of, accidental stuff. So that's another.
I really hate this. We don't have it.
I'm glad we don't have that here.
No. So I had a broken ankle in Canada and I wasn't getting much sleep. And I was finally on the interstate to Noddyland after about 5 days. Do not disturb. And my phone, I nearly said the naughty word then, made a noise like an air raid siren going off because someone was out shooting people somewhere. And it's like, I really don't care. You don't need to tell me this. I mean, I don't know what it does in New York City or what it would do in stabbings in London or something, but there's absolutely, you need to be able to turn these off. It's really annoying.
I mean,
Well, they're not on by default, though. At least here in the US, you have to turn it on or not turn it on.
In London, it would be handy when, for example, there was a fire nearby a few months ago, and the fire brigade was saying people should keep their windows closed and things because I think it was a tire factory, so it really stank. It was really bad. It might be handy to have things like that, but yeah, if they if
We have
well,
noses
judging
and stuff like that, though, don't we? Like, you knew it was
well,
getting
yeah,
pretty
there's
bad, so
that.
presumably you shut your window. Like,
Unless if you can't smell it, it means you might have COVID. But
yeah, I guess if you get olfactory issues, that's different. Does
yeah.
everyone need emergency alerts?
But I think, judging by the amount of helicopters I hear around here, if they had it for every single time there was some sort of crime nearby, I'd just be throwing the thing out of the window because it would never shut up making annoying sounds.
I just thought it was really 1984 where the little screen goes off in the in the flats and they all have to go and do stuff. It's like, no, I don't need this.
And didn't you say everyone's phones went? It wasn't just yours.
Yeah. Oh no, it all went. That's the whole point.
So everybody woke up.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Even if Do Not Disturb was on.
Oh dear. What would be really good is if you have your location services on, if it knows you're at home, like, or like in a residential place rather than walking about sort of thing, that it would not go, that would be, mind you, I suppose you could be still awake and about to go out, but if it's 3 o'clock in the morning or something, that's a bit stupid.
That'd be quite a lot of privacy information exposure as well, wouldn't it?
Well, it
Like,
would,
they
wouldn't it?
literally
Yeah.
know where all their citizens were.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure I'd be down with that.
No, I don't mean it would. I don't mean telling the government all that. I just mean the phone could go, I'm not going to make this big noise now because the person's not out anywhere. But
see, I would have thought that's what the Do Not Disturb settings were for.
well, yeah, there's that as well.
Oh yeah, no doubt we'll get them soon. I'm sure these alerts will come to us, and we'll have to just live with them.
No.
Yeah, and so really, this is an area that people could go in there. Like I said, lots of them, at least here in the US. And the good thing is that you can choose which ones to turn on and which ones not to turn on. And you guys go in here, explore it, and see what it is that you would like to enable and what you would not like to enable.